Hey, thanks, Danielle. Hey, everybody. I'm Carlos. I am CEO of Team Engine and one of the founders. Super excited to have you all here today. I see a lot of names and companies that I recognize from across the country. So, really excited to see a lot of representation across the industry. Today, I'd be joined by a couple of thought leaders in this industry and particularly with regards to workforce development. So, really excited to have a conversation with them about some really important topics that affect all of us in this industry. So with that, I'll hand it over to John. John, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone, welcome. Thanks so much for coming today. John Gould, I'm the Director of Client Experience at the Aspire Software Company. We are part of the Service Titan partnership and super excited to be here. Been in the industry about 25 years and I've been with Aspire for about 12 years. Hey, Carlos, I am super pumped. Chris, I've known you for about 20 years, second generation industry or second generation landscape company on the West Coast with me. Welcome, man. How are you doing today?
Hey, John, Carlos, good to see you guys. Hello, everybody. Yeah, Chris Angelo. I'm second generation owner of our business, Stay Green Landscape Services, here in Southern California. Beautiful week this week in Southern California. Grass is growing, plants are blowing, so it's great. Yeah, we've got about just under 500 team members across 10 locations throughout different counties in Southern California. I'm really excited to do a deep dive and focus in on our people operations side of the business.
Awesome. And we do have a bunch of representation across the country. I will note that we also do have some strong Southern California representation here. I am also from San Diego, although I'm currently located in Colorado. But with that, John, I'd like to start off with you. I'd just love to hear from you. You just in your roles worked with tons of landscaping businesses over a long period of time. I'd just love to hear from you what changes you've seen and how the industry and how the best companies think about their workforce.
Yeah, you know, I've been in the software game for about 14 years, and when I go back to the days in working with the landscape company, labor it pretty abundant. It wasn't necessarily difficult if you lost a couple people to be able to replace them. Obviously, labor is the number one thought. I think after material cost increases, labor is number one. It's been number one for a long time. Labor's scarce. And I'm seeing companies help people understand that this particular industry, and any service industry for that matter, is a legitimate trade. There is a future here. You have a career here. This isn't some temporary job like I think it was for a lot of folks, maybe a stepping stone to go into something else that they're looking for. And I think that's really important to help them understand industries like us aren't necessarily dependent on the economy. Sure, if the economy's down, I'm probably not going to be building a bunch of backyard patios. Commercial companies probably aren't doing facelifts, but trees continue to grow, continues to grow, and we're always needed. So there's a great likelihood you're always going to have a career here with their company. And then when I talked to some of the other thought leaders, and I did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on the 100 Days of Hell and changing that mindset to 100 Days of Victory, one of the things that I think folks are doing now in terms of meeting labor needs is retention. And that requires leaders to be present, whether it's supervisors, owners, they're present, they're there in the morning, they're there in the afternoon, they know who their employees are, they're recognizing simple things like birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. Because, when people are going to jump to another company for a quarter, 50 cents, that just doesn't make sense to me. Now, if you're jumping for $5 and I can't meet that, totally get it. But there's always this, they're not loyal. My question to you is, are you loyal to your companies or to your people? Are you showing loyalty? And I think it really starts there. It starts with leadership, that I am loyal to you. And I think in return, you're going to get some long-term loyalty there. And Carlos, you're meeting with folks all over the place. What trends are you seeing that are happening?
Yeah, I think what I'd say echoes a lot of what you talked about, John, and just like that broader theme of shifting from thinking about labor as a commodity to like a strategic advantage, and also something that is scarce and people have to think um, a lot more about, and actually like put a lot of effort into their workforce strategy. Like thinking to when we started the company in 2018 to now, I go back to an experience I had where I was, getting this company started, and I reached out to somebody in my network who was running a business in the trades, and wanted to pick their brain about how they recruit and retain people, and so I asked that question, and the answer to me that I got back was, I don't know, I pay people. And I was really surprised by that because I was talking to somebody who I expected to be pretty sophisticated about the business overall, and particularly about the workforce. And looking back to that conversation and the number of conversations I had like that to today, and talking to companies that really try to be an employer of choice and have a really strong, workforce strategy and build a great team and culture like Stay Green, it feels night and day. And so I think there's still businesses in both camps, but it does feel like the tide is shifting towards companies thinking in a more um, I don't know, like in-depth way, or thinking a little bit more about how to solve their workforce challenges. And so you see things coming out of this, like better engagement with the workforce across the workforce. So thinking about not just the office, but the field workforce, getting two-way engagement with those teams, meeting them where they are in the language that they speak, thinking about what technology they have access to and how to best reach them in that technology, and finding ways to not just invest like from a dollar perspective in their people, but really invest in a way that's going to flow through to them and have an impact on keeping people, giving them a way to advance in the business and become, part of the business, 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now. And I'm really looking forward to learning about, especially how Stay Green has done a bunch of that. But yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing right now, John.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Carlos. I mean, we've got to think outside the box. What are we currently doing? What are other folks doing? What can we do to enhance our employees' experience to make them feel special, understand who they are? I look back when I was working for a landscape company. One of the greatest jobs I had there was heading up our H-2B visa program. Um, and I was able to go into Mexico, Nicaragua, Guatemala. And what was cool about it, and I'm not telling anybody using visas that you got to do what I got to do, but what I was able to do was see where they're from, meet the families, and really understand why they are working and who they're working for. It's not me, the employer, it's the family, it's the children. And when I first met Chris, I was invited to come out to the Stay Green company picnic, and whether it's barbecues, things like that. But what Chris did was something I'd never seen before. I mean, the guy fenced off a park, big private space. They had games for the children, ice cream. I mean, and everybody knew everybody. The leaders knew the children. I mean, it was fantastic. Chris, I mean, what about you? I mean, what are you guys doing? You guys are always have top shelf people. And every time I'm at your office, people have been there for 10, 15, 20 plus years.
Yeah, so well, I'll just share about like the workforce mindset and the communication shift because over the last decade, I'd say with the different generation moving into the landscape industry and the older generations retiring out, that dynamics kind of changed, right? So what we were doing traditionally for 30 years is a different approach today for us. But I will get back to the company picnics and the perks. But I'd say we saw that a turning point about 10 years ago, and we realized just being the best service provider wasn't enough for the team. We had to really become a great place to work for, or for people to work for, in order to retain all of the talent from all over the org chart. I'm talking about from entry level gardener all the way to account manager and branch manager. And so we're really good at retaining salaried individuals, but we had a turnover similar to the restaurant industry where entry level people were just coming and going, and you'd see W-2s, you'd be printing, the same amount of W-2s for the people that were inactive that were active, at the end of the year. And so we didn't like to see that. I'd say historically, landscaping has always been treated as just a job, a tactical job. But today, I'll tell you, we're talking to kids coming out of high school and college, and they're like, hey, show me the growth path. And I want a career here with you. And so they're looking at as a skilled craftsmanship role that is getting paid, professional wages, doing stuff that's out in the landscape, which is really exciting. But we've got to really focus on how we're really onboarding these team members, training them, and leading them. And so communication has been instrumental. Historically, it was top-down communication, right? So you'd send a message out, everyone at the branch would hear the message, and at the end of the day, we'd repeat the message, right? And so today we've got a real feedback loop where we're sending out using Team Engine text messages to our broad base of team members and family members, letting them know about events that we've got coming up and things of that nature. So this summer, we're hosting at many of our locations back to school events where our management team will be cooking pancakes. The family's going to show up in the morning, pick up a backpack for their kids with some pencils and notepads, rulers, and things of that nature. And so it's a really good fun event we've been hosting over the last 2 years. At
And
our
that Chris, that just reinforces, I know why you're here. You're here to support your family, and I'm here to help you do that. That's an
Yeah.
awesome idea.
Yeah, so I would say, where our real win is on this is our what we measure as our, exempt versus non-exempt team members. We're tracking employee turnover rates. And we went at our hourly position from rates that were 50% turnover. We're down below 20% turnover for the past several years, working on a lot of these programs and really heightening our communication with our team members. Father's Day cards we've got going out in the mail this past week to all of our fathers that are working for us, which is exciting. Mother's Day just passed a month or so ago, and all the moms whose husbands work for the business or moms that work for our business received Mother's Day cards in the mail. So yeah, we're really excited about staying engaged with our team member and our future team members. And that's what I tell the kids when they're coming out to the back to school events is I look forward to you joining our team and leading our team.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I saw y'all's post on LinkedIn about the back to school night last year, and it made a big impression on me. I think that's just such a great practice. And I think what you say about like this becoming a career path and people looking at this as a trade and thinking a lot more about it. It's a really interesting theme that I know that John's going to talk about a little bit more and what they're doing to support that as well. But John, thinking about culture and kind of that concept, and particularly people first culture is like Stay Greens and others that you see. Um, you have said that having clear core values are a hallmark of those companies um, that set themselves apart in this industry. So I'd love if you could just like talk about why you think they matter so much and maybe anything you can say about how companies take them from something that's maybe like written on a piece of paper or on a bulletin board or on a wall and extend them into everyday operations.
Yeah, no, I don't know where to start, Carlos, but I'll say this. If you don't have core values, figure out who you are. I think our core values represent who we are. And a solid set of core values are going to help you become whoever it is you want to be. I remember when Aspire first came out with core values, I didn't necessarily roll my eyes, but I was like, oh, we've got core values like everyone else. Um, but one thing that we were coached to do and that we did very diligently is we were present with those core values. And when we aligned with Service Titan, their core values were very much shared, and they did exactly what we were already doing, and they continue to do. And that's addressing those core values before and at the end of every meeting. We incorporate those core values to be a dream team, achieve the extraordinary, to change lives in our communication, whether it's in a meeting or on the job site. And core values require accountability. When we truly believe in them, when we practice them, call me out if I'm not fulfilling our core value. I leave my job title at the door every day, Carlos. Whether you're above me or below me, if you're calling me out, thank you. And I expect the folks I work with to understand when I do the same. If somebody's not following our core values, it needs to be brought to our attention, because those aren't people that should be on the team. Sure, you might have some fantastic salesperson, some super high performer, but if they're not fitting your core values, they shouldn't be on the bench with you. You look at all the successful teams out there, whether it's the Padres, um, do I dare say the Dodgers, or like the Yankees and St. Louis Cardinals, they have a way, and they win because of culture. They win because of those values. And those are what drive success ultimately. Carlos, anything else, Chris, or anything I'm missing, gang, on core values? I can't speak enough about them. When you get everybody to believe in them, it's unbelievable what you can achieve.
Yeah, so from a landscape operator perspective, we our business started in 1970. My dad started our business. We operated that business. I got involved in the late 90s. We did operated without a set of core values for more than half of our existence, right? We're a 55-year company. About 12 years ago is when we established a set of foundational core values. Now, my great grandparents are Italian immigrants, came through Ellis Island, right? Grew up Catholic. So we've got instilled in us a belief system and some own personal values that we always brought to the business, but we never formalized it. And so the message we were saying early on in the business was, here's our mission statement, right? And this is our vision statement, right? And this is our company mantra, right? No weeds, green grass, no dead plants, no trash, like things of that nature. But culturally, we didn't really connect emotionally enough. And so 12 years ago, I'll hold up, we have a value behavior card that is in English and Spanish, and it has
It's awesome.
Yep. And so it's part of the company uniform. And so every morning at 4:45 a.m., I send out the core value and behavior of the week, and it goes to everyone's phones via text and or email, and they've got that. And then the morning huddles in every branch location, we pick team members and they recite those every morning. And so remember, we have the value in the Hispanic culture. It's really important to connect what a value is to an action, which is the behavior, right? And so the value is the idea, And then the behavior is the action. That's what you physically can see and observe with your eyes. And so, for example, for Stay Green, one of our values is teamwork, and one of our action items or behaviors is practice blameless problem solving. Just fix it. Apply your creativity and enthusiasm to develop solutions rather than pointing the finger and dwelling on the problem. Identify lessons learned and use those lessons to improve ourselves and our processes so we don't make the same mistake twice. Learn from every experience. And so that's just one example. Integrity, we have another one. Do the right thing always. And so this is truly part of our culture today. And we, during our performance reviews, doesn't matter what role or title you have in the organization, this is an area of criteria that is graded and scored. And it's considered during promotions. It's recognized at company events, etc., things like that.
Yeah, you know, besides core values, you hit on a key point, Chris, mission statement. I heard a story yesterday. This would have happened in the 1960s. A gentleman is visiting NASA. He's a consultant or an engineer or something. It's late at night. He's leaving the building. He sees this other guy there late at night, and he's like, "Wow, why are you still here? What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm here to send somebody to the moon." The guy was sweeping floors, but he
Yeah.
understood the mission. He
Yeah.
understood his role to play to achieve the extraordinary. And I thought it was a fantastic story. And I bring that up, not just core values, but mission statement.
Yeah, I think it's just an example of, to what you were talking about, Chris, so much of culture and values and mission statement, you can have all those things, but it's one thing to have all those things, but to transfer them to your entire team and have them not just transferred, but understood and then demonstrated is a whole nother thing. And so I think that's where a lot of folks get hung up. Another, thought that I had is, you mentioned that you worked for a long time without a set of core values, and that sometime you sat down to write those out. And I think that for the folks that are here in the audience who may not have those, may go through a similar struggle. And I think a good approach to it can be both trying to come up with core values that reflect reality. And so you were talking about how you were operating on, something that probably were core values, but that you just hadn't like really said what they were. But then you'd also make them aspirational at the same time. So, it doesn't just have to be like who you are today, it could also be who you want to be in the future. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, Chris, we do the same thing for us of putting the core values on a performance review. I find it can be really hard to come up with tactical ways to reinforce it. And I think that's a really effective tactical way to reinforce it. Is just have those listed on everybody's review and to at least speak to them and make sure that people are reminded of them, have an opportunity to reflect on them, as well as something that I learned from the Army. That was like how we structured our reviews in there, as well as we always went through and had a discussion about those kind of key values. So
Thank you for your service, Carlos.
oh, thanks, John. And Chris, like, some of the other stuff that you do actually sounds like very familiar to some of the stuff that we did in the military and was effective. So those are good practices. Um, so John, thinking about some of the stuff we were talking about earlier in terms of employees and their long-term potential and this concept of a flight path. Um, why is it so critical for companies to paint that picture and have something like that that they can put in front of the folks on their team to show them where, what their potential and where they're going might be at the company?
Yeah, when I think about flight path, it's really, I mean, if we're going to be a legitimate trade, which we are, if we're going to coach people, educate our people that this is a place where you can make it a career, flight path is necessary. And when I talk to young people, when you're looking to get into the screen industry, make sure the company has a legitimate system. And I'm not saying it's got to be Aspire, but a legitimate system. Don't go work for a company that only has a few trucks. Go to somebody like a Stay Green. Land Care, historically, they have a flight path. Here's what you have to do to become from a laborer to a crew leader. If you want to become a manager, here's where we go. Um, from a manager, you could become a branch manager. Here's how you earn a company vehicle. And when people see that, they have something to work towards. And one thing that's cool about the flight path is if there is an open position, maybe I'm a crew leader and I really want to be a production manager. I interview for the job. One thing I learned that I think is really important is that they don't meet the qualifications now, or there's a reason they're not moving into that position now, helping them understand the why and what they need to work on and demonstrate to get there. I think companies like the Stay Green are always going to scale. There's always opportunity there, and having that flight path with a company that is scaling is critical in helping people understand it. So there's it's out there that this is who you can be and who you can achieve at this company. So why go somewhere else?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. And that's one of the things I was just going to mention real quick. I think, you know, we mentioned earlier that people talk about employees leaving for, 50 cents or, 25 cents, or we hear all these, sort of mind-blowing stories. And, one of the ways that you can combat that is through having these flight paths. So for a lot of folks, they're looking elsewhere because they don't know where they're going and they see a next step at a different organization, you know, rather than having them only have the option of going to look elsewhere for that next step. Why not provide the transparency and certainty internally so that they don't feel like they need to even do that looking? And I think the second thing about it is that, for in the industry, so many of the roles that are challenging for so many companies are actually sort of like in the middle. And so if you can take the folks who are like the entry level and give them a clear path into the middle, that could be like a really good, strategy for, addressing that gap in the sort of like middle layers of the business. I don't know, Chris, how are you all thinking about this concept of flight paths and growth for your team?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when the question arises, well, why do you want to grow? Why do you want to be bigger, right? That comes up a lot. It's asked from outsiders to a lot of owner operators, right? And so, um, and the response typically is, well, if you're not growing, you're dying. And it's because you're losing traction on your good people going elsewhere, looking for opportunities elsewhere because you don't have the growth to support their personal desires and growth. And so we've made career growth a visible part of our culture. And so every new employee and existing employee gets to see our career roadmap, which we have published out there. And not only is it do you climb vertically, but you can go horizontal, right? From different departments, you can go from field into field services, which is administration. So you're not bound by the similar tasks within the organization. You can move around the organization. And as we've grown now, it's easier for us to really promote this because there are more opportunities now when you're a little bit bigger, when you have more size and scale. And so we've been promoting internally more than ever before. It's really exciting to see people that were once crew leaders now running production teams as a high performing production manager, or even people that have come in as an enhancement crew member and now becoming an account manager to be a client facing account manager. It's really neat. It's really paid off. And so um, we hire on competency and commitment, and we manage up through these growth patterns. And so we are internally supporting funding educational tracks, whether it be for an arborist license or a pest control license, things of that nature. And so we're investing in education for our team members to help them get to that next level in our organization.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think, we mentioned thinking outside the box earlier on today's chat, and I've seen folks that do think outside the box. Hey, this guy or woman are struggling out in the field, struggling operating this machine or performing their task, but holy smokes, they got some talent. One of the cool things I've been able to experience implementing Aspire in organizations is that they'd have a leadership team that is part of the implementation team. And you might be in a room of 15, 20 people, and there's this kid in the background asking these really challenging questions, or I can just tell gets it. Next thing you know, that I'm like, who's that? They're like, it's just Joe. He's second tier production person, really wanted to be here. Well, guess what? Joe understands video games really well. Joe's a special person. And now Joe's the power user. And I can think of two people at one of the largest organizations in the country who are now running our system for about 12, 15 organizations. And they were that second tier person who got it. Let's think outside the box. Um, Chris talked about it, hiring internally. Who do we have internally that could be up for this unique thing that we're doing as we're growing our business? There's so much talent, and it's not just the talent in the field. It's recognizing how they could be talented elsewhere, or where they could express and use that talent elsewhere, and it just grows into opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's a really unique opportunity that businesses in this century have. Like when you have a large entry level workforce, you have a ton of like opportunities to look for potential that you may not have in a different business where you just have a bunch of senior and highly like experienced folks. And so that's one of the things I think is exciting about landscaping. To your point, John, is that you can find folks who have potential to do roles across the business, and yeah, it's kind of a unique opportunity, but you have to be go looking for it, and you have to be open to it coming from a place you did not expect, which can be challenging.
Yeah, I start to think like the transformation, like robotic mowers they're coming, they're here. Who's running that? The person that's been running the mow crew for the past 20 years? Probably not. Um, think about it. Hey, mom, dad, I'm working, I'm running a mow crew. Oh, really? Yeah, but it's a fleet of 200 robots. That's pretty cool. We didn't think it was there. And it's probably not the old souls in our company that are going to do it. It's the next generation.
Yeah, it's probably the video gamers or the drone operators or the RC car drivers. Yeah, absolutely. So turning to sort of the last piece, thinking about the strategic long-term development of the workforce broadly and making sure that in 5, 10, 15 years, we have the folks to be running the team, working on the team, running the robot mow crew. Um, John, how do you see great companies approaching this and the industry, generally, and how are they thinking about making sure that we have that talent in the future?
Yeah, I think our role as industry people, whether it's to come to our company, we've got to draw people into this industry. I mean, there's no industry like it. And one of the roles that I've taken on, and I'm proud to be on the foundation board with NALP, along with a couple committees, and one's being the National Collegiate Landscape Competition. It was a dream of Kevin Kehoe, one of our founders, to somehow participate in that event. We didn't quite know how we were going to do it. We were just a young software company at the time. But his dream was we want to get Aspire in the classroom. Um, and unfortunately, the horticulture programs at a lot of universities are starting to dwindle. Um, but the more we went to the event, the more connections we began to 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 create. And so we've got Aspire in the classroom. We're in about 28 universities today. We're in 2 high schools. We partner with our clients to support the program, to introduce students that there is tech out there. Like it's not just digging holes and mowing lawns. We've got technology on our side. And I think that helps them wake up. It helps them educate their parents that I am going to a bigger industry than you could ever imagine. And it enables folks like our clients to get into the classroom, talk about their career path, and talk about all the different avenues you can go. It's not just a landscape company. It's going to Steel Chainsaw. It's going to John Deere. It's going to a Site One, equipment rental. I mean, think of all the vendors we use that support this industry. And that's been something that we did. And then I was excited to share with Kevin, because Kevin passed. I was excited to share with Kevin Kehoe's wife that we are helping fulfill his dream. And we, through our Aspire Academy, which all Aspire's users have access to, is a student certification. I wanted to do something to get a student to say, look at me, I've gone through a certification. I not only understand the video game of Aspire, but I understand the workflow and how my role impacts somebody downstream. I understand how to be a team member. And so that's been my mission. We're having great success with it, drawing people into the industry. Um, and I'm just going to leave it at there before I get too emotional, Carlos.
I mean, like having an opportunity to shape, the industry and fulfill, Kevin's dream. I can see that being, a very meaningful experience. Um, would you mind sharing, or do you have anything you can share about how Aspire has been able to get into the classroom and get buy-in from like the instructors and the programs to kind of get those partnerships going?
Yeah, we've got some great partners, Brigham Young University, Colorado State, and these are heavy hitters, right? Uh, they were on board early. And Carlos, I'm glad you asked the question because it was hard. It's been a struggle to get into schools. You talk to professors, they've been there 20, 30 years. I've got my curriculum set. I've been using the same test for 10 years. I know that's why everyone gets an A. Um, but they were slow to embrace it. You get younger professors in, hey, they're hip. This is cool. This is something unique. And what I did this year at NCLC was I said, hey, if I can't get to the professor, I'm going to get to the students. So I took a backdoor
Mhm.
approach. I actually, now that you call it out, I carry them with me everywhere. And it's, do you have Aspire on your resume? Here's how to get it done. And what we saw this year was students bringing professors to our booth at the career fair. And I've got 15 more schools interested. I'd like to have everybody that's participating in NCLC interested. Our clients are coming to us. Hey, my alma mater has a program. How can I support it? The outreach has been fantastic.
Awesome. That's super encouraging. Yeah, Chris, how are you all thinking about, long term playing a role beyond recruiting today to make sure that you all have, the folks you need in, 5, 10 years to when you're at, 1,000 employees or, continue growing.
Yeah, Carlos, before I share my perspective on that, it's great to see industry vendors and partners investing in our industry in that way. Thank you, John. And Aspire for actually reaching out to the faculty and educators to train up people. So when they come to guys like us, operators, we've got skilled individuals that can start helping us run our business and assist our business. That's just
Then
really,
it becomes contagious. Service Titans like, wow, this is cool. Let's go to tech schools that have HVAC, plumbing, electrical programs. Let's get them introduced to our program. It only helps our customers and to have people that already know or have an idea how to use it before they step into the door, like to a Stay Green.
what a
Mhm.
great vision that Kevin Keogh had. That's just truly amazing. And Carlos, so for our business, we formalized a mentor-mentee program a couple of years ago, where we have younger, self-driven individuals um, attached to a veteran that kind of shows them how they got to the next step, the role that that individual is trying to get to. And there is typically, it is not a direct reporting role. So the mentee, mentor, is somebody in the organization that is in a not in their branch typically,
Mm,
and where they'll go visit them at another branch, and then just for a day. They're encouraged twice a month to reach out to one another formally, and then there's projects that are put on. So we've got a mentor-mentee program. We've always had our branches build out their plans on an annual basis. And part of that is developing bench strength or identifying your high potential team member, and how are we
mm,
going to develop them for a particular role. And so we'd formalize that. And then as of recent, our people operation team, which is human resources, is being intentional about formalizing succession planning for that matches the operational and sales forecast. And so, like our organization, right? We have a vision, a mission, and a forecast, right? To break 100 million in 3 years. We're in year one of that 3 years. And how are we going to do that, right? It's this percentage organic, this percentage through acquisition. And then they build out the succession plan that says, okay, well, these are the bodies and the people we'll need. We know based on revenue figures, right?
mm,
How many people you need in what role to build out an org chart. And then we see who internally will move up into a role and promote, who behind them will move into that, and then where will we backfill. And so uh, it's really neat to share that with your organization because it gets people excited.
oh yeah, for
Yeah, it
sure.
does, Chris. And I hate to go back to baseball, but I am. The best teams in the league consistently have a deep farm system.
Yep.
They're
Mm,
thinking about that. They've got a plan B when they're struggling or somebody gets hurt or injured, which happens every day, right, Chris?
Yep.
Unfortunately, it does. Maybe not every day, we hope. But man, that's awesome. A mentor program. I hope folks are picking this up. That's just killer. Looking deep, looking ahead, and bringing up the next generation. That is fantastic.
Chris, how big is your people operations team?
Yeah,
Yeah, roughly.
so we've got a executive vice president that runs a team of four, and
Mm,
then they partner with, we have a payroll department, and then, administrative branch administrators that support branches, and then branch managers, and then a management team that they support. And they're
yeah,
on all of their weekly meetings. They're in their branches. They're providing recruiting resources, onboarding resources, um, performance improvement plans with them. Talking through right now, if you guys been watching the news in Southern California and seeing what's been going on, we've got to talk through at all of our branches a lot of uneasiness, and so they're
hmm,
helping mitigate that for guys that don't have that traditional soft technical um, with the rules in mind mindset. And so
hmm.
they've been a great partner to our organization.
Yeah, it's something that I was impressed by about your team is just the size of that people operations team. The depth of investment they all make into developing and making sure that you have the people you need. I think it's top percentile as far as like the businesses, many of the businesses that I've seen. It's pretty impressive. Do you feel like that's always been part of y'all's approach, or was there like a turning point where you decided to go big there, or yeah, how did that develop?
I think most operators, owners fear HR as in a compliance agency
Yeah,
that won't allow you as the owner to do what you want to do. And
yeah,
so having the right person is really important. And
yeah,
so um, our team partners with our branch leaders to help them be successful in their operation. Their
yeah,
incentive programs are designed to support operations, who is their
Mm,
client. And so all of my field services, which is admin, their primary client is operations. And
mm,
so that's kind of how we drive it. And then once you have the right leader leading it, you allow them to, you allow them just to run with it and
yeah,
trust.
awesome. No, it's a great example, I think, for other companies. So we're getting near to the top of the hour. We've covered a lot of really awesome ground here. I would love to just, leave you all with one last question. What's one thing for the companies watching today that you all would recommend that they might start doing this week to move closer to a people first culture? And John, any thoughts, any last words of advice on that?
I would say take a shift your mindset today, tomorrow, and the mindset that I choose, and I do talk about it pretty often. And you caught me a little off guard there, Carlos, but the mindset I've always coached folks is challenge them, challenge yourself to step out onto the skinny branches. I think we all live in a comfort zone. We cling to the trunk, and that's great. But step out, do something different today. Step out to some skinny branches. It's where action's at. Feel the wind in your face. Sure, they might break, but the greatest people, when they do, climb back up the trunk and get back out there. But what is one thing that you can do today outside of your comfort zone to make a difference for someone else, or for yourself to help get you where you think you want to go?
Absolutely. Chris, any last words of advice for the audience?
Yeah, when I think about that, I think about walking the four corners of the organization. So being visible and present um, in front of all team members. Morning dispatches, I show up, I'm there, I'm doing stretch and flex with guys. Then I'm out on job sites walking them. They see me there doing that, participating in sales presentations with our business development team, right? Those are things that go a long way that model behaviors that are good for your team to see. And then I'd say, ask team members at crew level and at entry level positions, what can we do to help improve your experience out in the field or in your role? And write it down and then follow through and bring back something to them, right? And so when
Mm,
people see you listening and act, it builds a lot of trust. And that's the foundation to a people first culture.
absolutely.
Amen, Chris. Amen.
Yeah, couldn't say any better than that. Super, awesome conversation. We've covered a lot of really great ground. Danielle, I'll turn it back to you to wrap us up.
Of course. But before we do, Carlos, did you have any parting advice that you wanted to share with the audience?
Um, I think I want to echo what Chris said, and a couple ways. Like one, I think what Chris was talking about was, being present as a leader. It does not necessarily mean doing something for anybody, but showing that you are willing to, and then modeling that willingness for other leaders. I think is super impactful, and so I think it's a tricky distinction to make for a lot of folks. Is like, how much am I here to do this work, and how much am I here to like support this work, and what is my role? And I think the way that Chris talked about that is really key. And then I'm going to echo this other thought too, which is that I think a lot of folks go to get feedback in their organizations from their immediate, ring of leaders and folks that are adjacent to them and who they talk to all the time. But I think that that leads to a huge blind spot, because really where the work is done, where the rubber meets the road, where the customer impression, where the production and delivery happens, is with at the entry level, at the lowest level. And so if you're getting all your feedback filtered and funneled through your immediate circle of leaders and folks that you work with, you're going to miss a ton of the greatest opportunities to actually move the business forward. So you have to get out there and ask, everybody for their feedback. And to Chris's point, show that you are willing and ready to deliver on those opportunities as well. So basically, I just piggybacked on everything Chris said.
Well, you guys, this has been a really inspiring conversation. Thank you all for sharing your wisdom. And it's like what I was thinking about as y'all were discussing is, none of this, like the business is still going to keep moving forward, right? None of this is absolutely required for your operations to happen and business to happen, but to grow and to sustain and to become excellent, like you need excellent people on your team and not just like turning over. And the fact that we were able to spend an hour covering a lot says that, this is important and it takes a lot of time and intentionality. And so thank you all for sharing that wisdom, but also thanks to everyone on the call for being here and willing to commit to that intentionality, and really show up for your workforce. We did not have any questions coming in on the chat, except for a thank you right now from Caitlin. So I think
Thanks, Caitlin.
I think with that, we will conclude the call. And just a reminder to everyone, we'll be sending out the recording tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that, but you can always send me an email if it doesn't come through. And we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.